If you were to snatch up all the brightness, cuteness, kindness, goodness in this world and bundle it up, you'd get Chrissy Schofield. I'm delighted to introduce you to her today and share just a snippet of her incredible journey. A true introvert, she described this interview as terrifying, but she shared anyway, hoping to impact even one listener, which kind of sums up who she is. You're about to be so inspired by a human who sees herself as small, but has pushed through some of the toughest moments of life. If you can't tell, she's one of my favorite people, so let's get into it. She grew up in Iowa as the youngest of 4 kids. As the daughter of a pastor, she always planned to become a missionary one day and even made a trip to Africa during her college years. However, life doesn't always go as planned or turn out in the cookie-cutter way we might hope. For Chrissy, things turned completely upside down in the blink of an eye. Listen in.
What was it like for you growing up as daughter of a pastor? As a preacher's kid?
I was very close to my dad. I loved it. I was very close with my family, especially my dad. And he was very loving and genuine, even more so at home than in the pulpit. He was just very sincere and loved Jesus like nobody else really, and admired him tremendously. And I think I always kind of strived for God's love, strived after it. And Dad was always very demonstrative and kind-hearted and loving. And so I think God maybe gave me a dad like that to show me a reflection of his love, that it was really something to be enjoyed and not to stress out kind of so much about.
Yeah.
Went to Bible college where I met and married Alan.
What did you go to school for?
I went to school for Christian education. And it was useful. I did a lot of artwork and wrote a lot of ABS and Sunday school lessons for Christian publishing companies, so it came in pretty handy. I had in college a professor. His name was Mr. Shantz, and he was a children's book author. And so I always doodled in class.
But it's not cheating if it's in his class,
That's
right?
right. So he encouraged me a lot and introduced me to people. And then after we graduated and married, we moved to Warrensburg, and I took some art classes at CMSU.
But you hadn't had art classes before that?
I didn't even take art in high school because I was kind of scared of the teacher. Definitely a hobby and an interest, I guess. But hadn't really considered it as a career.
Yeah, I was just doodling.
Yeah. I was like 95% sure that I was going to be a missionary.
Really?
I really wanted to be a missionary.
Where did you want to go? Anywhere in particular?
I went to Uganda. I thought, because I always hated talking, so I thought it might be
go somewhere where you don't know the language.
If they couldn't actually understand me. And I went over to Uganda, and I was still awkward. So I think that I had the presupposition that you go over there and you do a lot of good. And I think when I got over there, I was more blessed than I was a blessing. And I really felt like their faith was probably stronger than mine. And so
you went to Uganda, you came back, you fell madly in love with Alan. How did that happen?
He had asked me out when we were freshmen.
Had you dated before? What was your dating experience?
I had dated before, had a high school sweetheart.
Oh.
And when he asked me out, I was kind of intimidated by him.
By Alan?
Yep.
What was college Alan like?
He was exactly the same. I don't think he's ever been a kid. He was very mature, and so I didn't go out with him. I was too nervous. I actually...
Because you thought he was too good?
Yeah. And I had this friend. It's kind of a funny story. And I'm talking through this with her. You know how you do when you're a girl and dumb. And so we're talking about it, and she writes in this notebook, this crazy letter to him refusing this date and signs it Chrissy's social secretary. And it's really funny. And it was really a humorous letter.
Does he still have it?
Well, it was just a joke. He really wasn't supposed to see it. I wrote like a real letter that was very, very nice. Agonized over it.
Oh my goodness.
He had these like peg holes where the mail went. So I'm heading to class the next day. I ripped the letter out of my notebook, stick it in his little mailbox, and I can see the next class he's like reading it, and I'm watching
that's awkward.
very carefully, and he's laughing, and I'm thinking I didn't write anything funny in that. And so I look in my notebook, and my letter is still there. I'd like given him the joking letter, and it was just terrible. So,
did he talk to you about it?
oh, he was so good-natured about it, and we laughed about it actually. And then we were just friends. We were on camp team together. When I got back from Africa, he asked me out again. We went to this Chinese restaurant. I had a terrible head cold. I couldn't breathe through my nose at all. And actually, the newspaper had just written up that restaurant with a health violation.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so there's nobody else in there. And we were like,
But
no.
you guys didn't know about that?
I knew about it. He did not know about it. I was like too kind of shy
Oh my
to
gosh.
tell him, hey, this is kind of a bad restaurant. And so we're at this restaurant.
Oh
I
my
can't breathe through
goodness.
my nose at all. And the
So
waitress is
romantic.
like so attentive because she has no other customers at all. And we go back to my apartment. We put up Christmas lights, a Christmas tree.
Aw.
We watched like the Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yes,
And
classic.
then we had like the define the relationship talk.
Mm.
And
And this is first date.
I'm like, I don't see this going anywhere, and I don't want to lead you on because I just
Really?
I'm a little bit just intimidated by you. And so he goes home. It's pretty late. It's like 11.
You told him that you were intimidated by him. That's why
I
you didn't
did.
see it
I
going
did.
anywhere.
And
Well,
so
you were honest.
the phone rings as soon as he gets home at like 11:30, asking if I'd changed my mind.
Oh,
It was so adorable. And so, anyway, after a few more interactions, we ended up together.
wow. So what made you realize that you were a goof? Did you,
Well-
that night, I mean, when he called, were you like, oh, I kind of have changed my mind?
You know, our apartments were very close. Mine was like actually underneath his. And at that time, his dad came down with a brain tumor. He was
wow.
really very sick. And there was just something about, I think probably the final straw in my resistance was, not only just kind of, I guess, seeing him be there for his parents, and he's a good, great guy. But I was working at the college at that time, and it had snowed. We had a really big snowstorm, and when I got up and was headed out the door to my car, he had shoveled a walk from my door to the car, and I cleaned all the snow off my car, and it was so sweet.
Oh,
And
he was
so-
making it hard for
He
you.
did. He was very hard to resist.
So you finally gave in.
I did, and then we got engaged pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, once you know, you know.
That's right.
You
So
were all in.
maybe 3 months passed, and then we
Wow.
got engaged, and
How did he propose?
we had decided we weren't going to kiss until we got engaged.
Yeah.
And so this particular night, he had secretly eaten a little bit of toothpaste. I could see him getting a little dab of toothpaste, which I thought was super weird, but I also wondered
went
if he
along
was up
with
to
it.
something. So then he had this key to the whole building at college, which he probably wasn't supposed to have. He got it accidentally. They accidentally gave it to him and didn't like it. So we climbed up on the roof of the memorial building, which was the main building. And we're just looking around. He gets out this ring,
Oh.
gets down on his knee, and drops the ring over the edge of the building. And
Oh my
it was
gosh.
just a joke. He brought a decoy ring.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
he got out the real ring, but I thought he might still be teasing, and I was afraid
Oh,
to
that's
say
terrible.
yes or no, because I didn't know if he was just joking, and I didn't want to seem overly eager. So we got engaged.
That's hilarious.
He was a youth minister in Warrensburg for a couple of years. And then we came to do campus ministry in Rolla for 18 years. And got kind of off to a bumpy start. We were both a lot, I think, more selfish than we realized.
Mm-hmm.
I think that really is the biggest rude awakening.
Was it the first year that kind of hit?
Yep.
Or
We, so our first fight, we get back from the honeymoon. It was about my cooking. Actually,
oh no!
I had researched all these little old ladies to find out how to make fried chicken. And so I was trying to make fried chicken. It was his favorite.
Oh.
And it actually caught on fire on the stovetop. And so he is yelling a little bit, which my family never raised their voice at all. My parents had never, ever raised their voice. So I got upset about that. And I went to the bedroom and I was pretending like I was praying so I wouldn't come in there. And so finally he comes back there with this piece of our wedding cake on a plate and a little fork to try to be a peace offering, I guess. I said, you better eat that yourself because it's the only supper you're getting. And so we kind of found a balance that first year, and then especially when we moved to Rolla. Rolla was a great fit for us. We really liked the area, liked the people, and just kind of started to work out the bumps. And he stayed really busy at the campus house, and so I just kind of adjusted by kind of pursuing a little bit of a career with art and writing. And so that's kind of where we were at. It was a very happy time. And it took us a really long time to have a baby. And that's just the way that it happened. And Lily was really pretty miraculous. We didn't have any type of intervention or anything, but after several years we had Lily, and I had just every problem during pregnancy. Was on bed rest since the 12th week. She was born on her due date, which was, they were expecting her to be born extremely prematurely.
Wow.
And the doctor was saying maybe she'll be 4 or 5 pounds if we're lucky, and she came out almost 8 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
At a C-section. And so they're just like, they get to where they can see her, and there's just a gasp. And so they're like, she's huge, and she's just this
plump little
butterball
blonde baby.
Pink health, and just fantastic, and she's been a total delight.
Oh my goodness.
Ever since, so that was good. And so she was 3 years old. She was at her first or second day of preschool. And that's the morning we decided to go for a motorcycle ride for our 13th wedding anniversary. And we were just outside of town, a couple of miles. I don't think we were going more than 25 or 30 miles an hour on the bike. And for some reason I was very uneasy and even contemplated asking him to slow down or something. I just had a bad sinking feeling. And I prayed I remember just squeezing, thinking maybe if I just like squeeze him tighter, it will make him slow down.
Yeah.
Because we weren't going fast. It was, and I
just, you could tell that something
felt any peril, but I just had a kind of a sinking feeling about it. And so I prayed and said, God, I don't think that you like for us to live fearfully, and I trust you with my life. And that's the last thing that I remember. And Alan didn't ever lose consciousness. He was awake the whole time. We hit a patch of gravel. They hadn't cleaned up. They'd done some road construction and hadn't got it cleaned up yet, and there wasn't a sign there, and it was right on a curve. And so we'd gone through the ditch, and the bike kind of flipped, and we flew like 20 feet, they tell me. And so Alan,
But you don't remember
I don't
that?
recall it at all. He knew it was bad. Couldn't feel anything. Couldn't move. And he was, of course, praying. And he was praying that someone would find us quickly. And one of the girls at the camp's house found us at just the moment he was praying. So she actually was shielding, she knelt beside me, I guess, and was shielding my eyes from the sun because I was just like staring right at this guy.
Oh.
I was just totally out of it.
Wow.
And then
I wonder how much of it was unconsciousness versus just the shock of all of it, if you were responding and stuff.
yeah, I had a really serious concussion.
Oh, wow.
And they did a couple of MRIs, or whichever one is the easier one to do. CAT scan or MRI, I don't know which. But they did a couple of them because I wasn't responsive at first. But then the nurse came in, and I remember her saying that my mom was on the phone, and something about that just kind of woke me up. And I just remember thinking, oh no, but I really worried her, and kind of knowing what was going on at that point. And they were getting ready to fly Alan to Columbia.
Oh, wow.
So they wheeled him in to say goodbye to me and told me to touch him on the collarbone because that was kind of the last place where he had feeling. And there was something also about that we both remembered that really well, looking back and what we can sort through about that day. So he got flown up to Columbia. They would have liked for me to stay another night, but he was really, really bad at first. They didn't really know if he was going to make it.
Wow.
So, the secretary had picked Lily up from preschool. So I'm glad that somebody thought about that. And she had taken her back, and we had a lady who watched her son who was just like a grandma to her, and like a mother to me. She was wonderful. And so she was watching Lily at our house. And I just was so crazy because you just have the two, you're still kind of in the world of, wow, I need to empty the dishwasher. I need to get the beds changed for Alta, and just trying to do all these things, and at the same time, not really being able to prioritize.
Yeah, you're like, I need to cook dinner. What are we supposed to eat tonight?
Right. And so there was just that, I guess, dichotomy of two worlds happening, and our friends were like, we really need to go right now. And we did not worry about that. And so we got up there, and when I got off the elevator into the waiting room, there was probably maybe 30 of our friends who were already up there. And just welcome us. People are giving me money, just handing me money, and I was like leaving it places because I
just overwhelmed.
I was overwhelmed. And so they called us back into a room. It was very hot. He was on a kind of oscillating table that was turning him upside down, and the doctor is giving us just a very grave prognosis. And I remember, not really believing it.
Yeah, does any of it sink in at that point?
I don't
just
really think that it did.
Nightmare.
Yeah. And my family, a very close-knit family, they were all there and spent the night in the waiting room. And I remember my brother was like sleeping just on the floor of the waiting room and feeling guilty because I'm in this like chair and he's on the floor. And so they took Lily back to our house and stayed with her for a couple of weeks. Alan was in Columbia for maybe 8 weeks. 4 weeks kind of in the ICU, and then 4 weeks at Rusk, which was a rehabilitation center.
And you were there with him during that time?
I was.
Kind of back
I
and forth?
came home several times, and Lily and I stayed at the campus house in Columbia some.
How were your injuries at the time?
I was really fine. The first few days I had a really bad headache and was still vomiting, with that concussion. But other than that,
Well, and probably just from being so overwhelmed. Just the nightmare of everything going on.
The gift of that concussion was that I couldn't process it. And it evolved slowly.
Yeah.
And so I'm really grateful for that. And even when my thinking cleared up, it's just so surreal.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just kind of in a different world when you're living at the hospital.
Yeah.
It's just it's comforting to know that you really just acclimate to whatever is going on. You just tuck your head down and plow through it with the Lord's help. And so it really, I know that we were upheld by people's prayers. God was so incredibly faithful. And then when we came home, He provided for us in ways that we hadn't even anticipated. I hadn't even thought about, hey, how are we going to get Alan in our house? Because it wasn't handicap accessible, and the campus house board members had just taken care of everything. They built ramps and moved furniture around, and everything was ready to go. And
did you go through any period of time where you were just angry and afraid, or was it so much of a daze that...
I don't think that I was ever angry. I think it's fair to say I wasn't ever angry. But I did feel, if I could sum up how I felt a little bit forgotten by God and a little bit hurt. It was kind of the feeling of just a little bit of getting dumped or betrayed, and there's just that little twinge of, I thought that we were better friends in this. And He brought to mind that prayer, I trust you with my life. And I guess just kind of, in the book of Job just blurts out all of these accusations or whatever, and God kind of responds with a question instead of kind of playing Job's game. He's like, no, we're gonna play my game.
Yeah.
So it was kind of that. It's like, is this what you call trusting me?
Oh, wow.
And so and he really spoke to me in some ways that were kind of supernatural during that time. Just really, really ministered to me. I think, and as long as I was showing up, I would get everybody in bed, just get on my face on this rug we had in the living room. Then he just really ministered to me, and he was so... There's never really been a time where I felt His presence like that. Yeah, I think it's Psalm 34 that says He's closest to the brokenhearted, and that's a pretty good consolation. It's like we can lose everything that this life and world has to offer, but it's like, Paul puts it, it's like garbage compared to having that closeness with God. There's no comparison at all. So I think I have, in spite of times of question and even hurt, always recognized that God is absolutely faithful. And even more so with the passing of time, looking back and seeing, He has a different perspective than we do. He views brokenness differently than we do. And we look at it as something to be avoided at all costs, and He looks at it as an opportunity to draw us to Him and to know Him and get to know His heart for us. And, He has an eternal perspective, and the things we go through are just a blink. Really?
A little blip.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you were a caretaker. How did you fall into the new normal of everything being turned upside down?
We had my parents with us a lot of the time. My dad was going through Parkinson's.
Oh, wow.
My mom has got a lot of health things going on too.
And when stuff like this happens, or any crisis of any kind, you kind of just think, well, it's only fair that everything else in life just hits pause.
Yeah.
Everything else needs to stop moving because we're just working through this.
Yeah. Well, I think in this, I'm being very honest by saying this. I think even very early on, I was very grateful that God had entrusted me with the gift of perspective, because I had been chasing so hard after things that didn't matter at all. I remember just before we had that accident, I'd been pursuing, and I'd done a lot of children's book art and things, but I'd gotten the call for just a huge, it was a $20,000 project. And
wow.
With this company that I just had dreamed about working for. And so I just signed the contracts probably a week.
Oh my goodness.
Before we got into that accident. And I was working on the sketches in the corridors of the hospital, the ICU waiting room, and I'm thinking, I don't care about this at all.
Yeah.
This doesn't matter at all. And I'm so glad to learn that, in my 30s, instead of like at the end of life when you start losing everything, but, it's too late to really readjust your Palm Pilot or whatever and say, I'm heading the wrong way. And so I recognized that, and I was really glad for that. And I remember listening to the radio one day, and this guy was talking, the radio host was interviewing someone, and he said something that I thought was so profound. And it just, when he said it, just like a lightning bolt moment that just shoots through you, but he said, the goal of this life is to be selfless. And that had never been a conscious goal of mine at all. Because you really buy into, I think our culture would
That's
have
the opposite of what the goal is as far as everything that you see and everything that you're told.
Right. I think our culture is like, follow your dreams. You gotta not settle. And it's just so opposed to maybe what God says when He's like, you lay down your life and you find it, but if you hold on to it, you lose it. You can't hold on to it. Don't make a treasure out of something that you were never meant to hold on to. And so I think we went through that, have been going through that learning process of what everybody learns, but it just happened to us like a few decades earlier.
Yeah, no kidding.
Which I'm pretty glad about, because I'm glad to have that perspective, and it has changed everything.
How are you able to have patience for people that haven't gone through that, though, and are still a couple decades behind? Does that drive you nuts?
It doesn't really drive me nuts. The Lord has been so gracious with me. Alan is so gracious with me. People in my life have been so good to me. I've been the silliest person my whole life. I really have been. I'm just a ridiculous person. And I've just been the recipient of so much grace.
Have you ever let yourself, I'm sure you have, but do you let yourself think, this is what life would have been like if not for the accident?
Well, I think, that line of thinking does pop up, and we miss traveling, we miss, there's a lot of times.
So you guys were super active and...
Yeah. Especially Alan. And it's been much harder for him because he was looking forward to being a dad so much.
Yeah.
And Lily, she loves playing sports, and he's so sad that he can't be out there with her. And so to say that we don't ever feel great sadness about the losses that we've experienced, we grieve over those still. But But I will say, we've also found that isn't the way to be happy.
Yeah.
That's a good way to be unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a verse highlighted in my Bible: forget the past, forget the former things. God is doing a new thing. And can't you see it? And so it's very important and therapeutic just to keep your eyes forward.
Yeah.
Keep trudging along.
Is art still a hobby?
Yeah.
Was it just kind of set aside? Obviously, it had to be for a period of time.
Yeah. I had an agent for years, and then I really felt, after the accident, God was saying, you got to lay that down. I didn't want to. I resisted a lot longer than I should have, probably. And then finally, on a Sunday morning, I did it. I emailed her and said, this can't be a focus for me right now.
Wow.
And so I quit that, and it was really sad. And I was up here playing piano for church, and the worship leader would always come over. We'd all pray together before the service, and he's praying, and I'm like not really listening to him at all, and I'm praying in my own mind saying, God, I feel like you've asked me to lay down everything that I've really enjoyed or cared about, and I need to feel like you love me. I need to feel that today.
Yeah.
And just kind of frustrated, and so the prayer ends. He goes back over. The pastor comes to give the invocation. He's talking, and out of the corner of my eye, I can see this little girl, and I'd had her in children's church a few times, and she wiggles away from her parents, and I can see the look of panic on their faces. And the preacher's up here talking, and she's walking straight to me up at the piano on stage, and I'm wondering, I didn't know her very well. I'm wondering
what's going on?
And I'm, is she coming to me, or is she going to myself? Yeah. She comes right up to me.
Oh my goodness.
After the services started, and she gives me this big hug around the neck. And she hands me this little piece of scrabbled up paper. And she just skips happily back down to her seat. She was about 3 rows back. And I look at it. I can't make any sense out of it. I turn it around upside down, and it says, I love you on it.
Oh.
And this little broken kid writing. And it was so sweet that I just really felt like God
you needed
instantaneously answered my prayer through this, cute little freckled 6-year-old.
Yeah.
It was perfect. I'm working on a children's book right now. I've been taking on projects that the Lord brings to me that I just really love, and trying to, just let them know up front I have a very limited schedule, and so the people who I've worked with have been great.
But you're just kind of letting it come along rather than seeking it out or making a priority of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have much to offer God. I feel like I'm not really one of those really good ones, but anybody you can pour into is an investment. You can, I guess, claim to be a benefactress or something if you pour it into someone's life and they do great. So I guess hopefully I can encourage a few people.
You're so silly. You do that constantly.
Oh.
For one thing, your story is a huge testament of, I think, your joyful spirit. That's the first thing that comes to mind when I think about it, is just joy. And I don't know how many people would really be able to walk through something like that and come out still saying that God is good and that he's been kind to them and that he really loves them, especially if you've ever wrestled with feeling like you had to strive for that.
Yeah.
And so I think that joy is just a huge encouragement. And I know you've picked apart those little details, and I think you see other people as being like superheroes. And I don't know what it is about it that you can't see yourself as a superhero, but you see everybody else as a superhero.
Thank you, Nick. I draw the line at wearing spandex.
That's a good line. That's a good line.
Chrissy briefly mentioned her amazing skills as an artist, so I want to plug things on her behalf. She has written the most charming children's stories with her own illustrations. She's also written a book about the accident titled My Life and Lesser Catastrophes, an unflinchingly honest journey of faith. You can find all of them under Christina Schofield on Amazon, or head to social media where we'll be running a special giveaway. Find all these details in the show notes below. Have you experienced a moment where life went completely opposite how you planned? How did you walk through that? Or react in it? How did it change you? Or are you in the middle of it right now? You never know who needs to hear your story, finished or still in process, and we'd love if you'd share. Like Chrissy, that may sound terrifying, but your story matters. You can submit it on our website or email me. It doesn't have to be perfectly written or fully processed even with a nice ending. You should know that the unpolished version is full of purpose, and that's why this podcast exists. Thanks for listening to You Never Asked.